got really sensitive G-spot because apparently I don't believe either Mr. C, any of her past boyfriends and ex-husbands, they haven't really reached and hit her G-spot really with their dicks.
Right.
They haven't.
So I watched pretty much all of the things related to Chris Chan up to this moment, and I'm kind of upset with how the reporting's been done. So one can't possibly cover the entirety of Christine's existence on the internet in one video, and I'm not going to try that. But what I am going to do is relay all of the information that's happened thus far, so that way you can at least be a little smarter. Been away for a bit, so let me put on that hat and get started. The catalyst of these events is a leaked call of Christine admitting to sleeping with her aging mother. Incest aside, the mother also suffers from dementia, and the idea of consent seems to be one that was very far off. Obviously, the call was extremely damning. I know it bothers me. A point worth mentioning is whether or not Christine is confirmed autistic. A debate that is raged on the internet has now reached the courts, of which now there may be official medical documentation of Christine's condition. This was even brought up by Christine's lawyer, who said the following regarding this interesting little tidbit. Miss Chandler's frequent and sometimes over-the-top presence on the internet is partly a product of mental health issues, causing misguided attention-seeking and often provocative engagement with others, Heilberg said. He also told people to, quote, not believe everything they learn on the internet about his client and her case. Like almost anything on the internet, it is difficult to determine what is true. These principles hold no matter if you are a supporter, a legitimate journalist, or a troll, hater, or legitimate inquiries. Journalists, supporters, nuisances, and trollers will be handled the same way. The criminal justice system is a poor vehicle to help people with mental health issues, he told Newsweek. There is also a critical shortage of mental health treatment facilities in Virginia. Providing somebody with the help that they need is complicated and will take time. A small bit of background is important, but many have argued that Christine is the most documented human in not just the modern era, but in all of human history. For the less internet savvy that do watch the channel, Christine is called something known as a lol cow. That being somebody on the internet others watch for, well, the fact that they're intriguing or cringy or that they do things that are not socially normal. Moving back to the call, after this call was made public, Christine and her mother were separated. So, an order of protection was placed on Christine's mother, and from that, things started to change a bit. Basically, what an order of protection does is mean that Christine can't interact with her mother in any sense of the word. It should go without saying that this wouldn't last long, and what happened next is what would eventually lead to Christine's arrest. If you haven't noticed, this video is a little different than the others. If you like this content, please do subscribe and hit the bell, or support me on Patreon like these fine people do, of which I have not given them credit in such a long time. Thank you for your continued support of the channel. The order of protection meant that Christine had to move out of the house, as well as Barb, Christine's mother, being placed into a care facility. What happens next seems to be up in the air, according to a lot of initial reporting and moreover Twitter reporting. But what actually caused the violation of the protection order? Well, some sites are claiming that it was embezzlement. I should mention these aren't the charges holding Christine. According to the CWC wiki, this was a total sum of $750, some of which went to cover a negative bank balance in Christine's account. The rest would be spent on hotel accommodations and toys. This was also a violation of the order of protection, and thus Chris Chan was arrested. The fact that Christine dipped into Barb's bank account is what caused the arrest to happen. The arrest was a highly internet publicized event. It was live streamed online. It wasn't an absolute disaster. It was pretty calm, all things considered. Christine cooperated with the police. Clips from this event include the mentioning of Sonichu and Christine talking about her internet fame and the onlookers that were there watching her being arrested. There were also mentions of the dimensional merge, a delusion that Christine discusses quite frequently on the internet about dimensions such as the one she's created in her Sonichu comic becoming part of our reality, or at least that's what I was able to glean from it. Quote, she is currently facing one charge of incest for an alleged sexual assault against a member of her family, a Class 5 felony that can carry a term of imprisonment of not less than 1 or more than 10 years and a fine of up to $2,500. On Thursday, August 5th, Christine was placed into Greene County Juvenile and Domestic Relations Court, an order held without bond in Central Virginia Regional Jail in Orange County. The following court proceedings were rather interesting, and they were definitely a spectacle of a pre-trial. As mentioned, Christine was ordered hold without bail, meaning she could not pay for her release from jail. The reasoning for this call was by the attorney, who deemed Christine not only a danger to herself, but moreover the community at large being a danger to Christine. As much of this had already been publicized on the internet and in real life, they figured it would be much better to keep her, to protect her from people outside. The lawyer went on to explain how people had sought out Christine and was explaining this to the judge in the ruling for holding without bail. And what happened next is that Christine decided to interject in the conversation between the attorney and the judge. She said, quote, I'm famous on the internet, and from this event she was told not to speak again unless told to by the court. After being sworn in to discuss the possibility of bond, Christine said that she would participate fully in trial proceedings if she was allowed to go home and pick up some personal item. Quote, Judge Barretto told Chandler that there are two things to consider when deciding bond: whether a defendant is likely to appear at trial, and if the defendant constitutes an unreasonable danger to himself, his family, or his community. Chandler again interrupted the judge, saying she. The judge said he was reading from the state statute itself, not discussing Chandler herself, just explaining the law. Another court interruption would come a little bit later when Chandler began to stomp her feet. The reasoning for this is because she demanded to go home and pick up her personal belongings for her trip. She also went on to explain how she wouldn't be safe until she had these items. But what of the person in this phone call talking to Christine? Who is this person? And I think that they might even be more interesting than Christine herself.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
This is Isabella, last name not included because, well, apparently this would violate YouTube policy and I have a content strike on my channel currently. Regardless, Isabella is allegedly the woman in the call with Christine, and Isabella is something else entirely. A university student of engineering, Isabella is a very active user on the internet. Primarily, she was located by Kiwi Farms using her alleged university link. This digging was done by Kiwi Farms, and then they listed 68 things allegedly related to Isabella. Some things of note include the following: alleged animal abuse, including the live boiling, burning of hamsters, including other pet abuse and discussion of animal killing. allegedly bragging about ties and family connections to the Nazis, as well as rampant racism, transphobia, and hatred of autistic people. Alleged serial doxing using her alleged father's connections with cybersecurity and the Navy SEALs, of which he was apparently a part of. Allegedly using a fake chess club at university to troll and harass people, including emotional abuse of transgender individuals by embarrassing them via fake relationships. Allegedly has called herself an incel, along with participating in some form of unhygienic fetish roleplay. The list continues, in fact, mentioning other alleged crimes, though I felt these were some of the ones that were bearing some kind of mention based on Christine and what we know so far. Apparently, her motive for all of this and being involved in the call, according to Kiwi Farms, is that Isabella was playing a long game, a sick fascination with Christine in order to get Christine to kill herself, actively working against any support for Christine and encouraging this incest in a long-form attempt to, well, you know. It goes without saying that Isabella did not respond very kindly to these things, saying that these allegations were complete BS. Now, I did read her response as it's listed online and you can find it quite easily. But I will say that she doesn't address many of the allegations brought forward against her by Kiwi Farms. Though, again, there isn't enough for me to claim that most of these things are true or not, though one can infer based on where she hangs out on the internet. In her response document, she claims that they only recorded parts of the call that seemed incriminating, as well as discussing an inner circle around Christine fighting for attention. According to this doc, someone named Fiona leaked the call after Isabella sent it to her, saying she leaked it. What happened is because of what she did, but it's not her fault. Isabella mentions earlier this Fiona person was infatuated with the idea of Christine. According to Isabella, she was working with some investigator for this call and this incriminating incest-related conversation regarding Christine, and that this call was never meant to become public knowledge, at least not in the immediate future. Personally, in my opinion, I believe that this response leaves a lot of holes and questions begged that Isabella leaves unanswered or completely ignores or hand waves away. On top of that, regarding Christine, I don't really know if not releasing this call would somehow make the situation better. Christine has been public knowledge in Virginia for quite some time, and local authorities are familiar with the family. The only way anything would happen is if it got leaked to the public. There wasn't anything done to help Christine from the Virginia government in the past, so I'm not surprised that it took all of this to get the police to move. Hundreds of random callers from around the world all saying what was happening inside the Chandler household.
The absurdity of Kiwi Farms, although I only saw it briefly. Okay, you know that's a lie because she spent literally a week straight sock puppeting there. I have been informed that multiple random people are being doxxed for seemingly no reason. Never once posted. Alright, you know that's a lie. She was bragging about it on Discord. Never once posted, yet there are people claiming I made around 60 or so pages of interaction, and that I'm manipulating them. Their accusations towards me are pedophilia, necrophilia, gore, animal abuse. They literally claim I boiled a hamster, you did. White supremacy, Nazism, grooming, mass manipulation that could only have been performed by someone with mind control. Okay, you gotta love this one right here. This is a beautiful insight into her mind and how her mind works. She thinks that she's a mastermind, and she thinks that people see her as a mastermind right now. We don't. Okay, you could call it mass manipulation because you tried it on a lot of different people, but what you did wasn't something only someone with mind control could do. The manipulation you tried is something that children do, only children do it a lot better.
Isabella, to my knowledge, hasn't been charged with any crime herself. Again, according to her alleged connections to law enforcement and military. However, she hasn't been charged for any of the things that she has allegedly done. But I wouldn't be surprised if the internet doesn't switch its crosshairs in that direction. Or whether or not the university she attends will step in. But that's where the facts stand at the current moment. I'm not really going to pass judgment on whoever this Isabella person is, just that these things that I'm reading and have heard are as bad as the posts make them seem to be. It goes without saying that this entire situation is awful, horrendous, and is incredibly sad. I don't know how anybody could have any form of enjoyment left in this, and I myself have stopped finding enjoyment in the saga that is Chris Chan for a long time, because that it's more sad than it is funny. But that's where it stands now. I hope that some of this information helps you understand the current situation. The trial hasn't started yet, but assume that journalists will be there, and they will definitely be covering it word for word as it goes on. If you did find this video informative, or you like anything I do, please feel free to support the channel in any such way. I have merch, I have a Twitter, I have social media. Anyway, I'm gonna end this video by talking a little bit about my mental health and my personal well-being. If you're not interested in that, you can leave now, but for those of you that do want to hear about that, I do want to talk about this a little bit, because I haven't been well at all. So let's talk about that. I talk about it in joking forms and in passing comments on the YouTube channel, as well as on Twitter when I go into angry rants about things that are happening. But needless to say, where I'm at in my life right now is not the best place for not only creative thinking, but feeling healthy and safe and many other things. I wish I could talk, at more details about it, and I guess sometimes I do talk about it a little bit on stream. I think it goes without saying that I talk very highly of my mother, but there's a reason I don't mention my dad very much, and that is where I will leave that. It sucks, it's bad, and there's not much y'all can do about it. But I bring it up because it was bad recently, and so I took a break. And I haven't been well because part of who I am as a person is dictated by this channel, of which I'm trying to change up a little bit of the format. I don't know if you've noticed. With that all being said, I haven't, my mental health has really just, it's gotten bad. I have good days and I have bad days, but I have a lot more bad than good, and it's hard. I don't have a lot of the things I used to have on YouTube, as a support network, as friends, as colleagues. Those things have faded away, and it's been very hard. And I'm being vague about most of what's going on in my life because it involves people I do care about, and I respect them, so I don't want to talk about it in detail, which is hard, especially when you feel hurt. So yeah, there's that as well that's affecting me quite a bit. I've also become quite disillusioned with commentary as a genre, because I don't think I'm great at this job, but I do think there are commentators that are much worse than me, that are so much more successful, and that kind of like artistic and professional envy is not good, and I realize I'm being stupid, but you know what, I can't help it, so that too. There's so much more I wish I could talk about on the channel and all of that, but I'm gonna use this time to be more creative, and if it tanks the channel, oh well. But yeah, with that being said, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm being vague about it, but I don't know any other way to talk about these things. I feel like I'll be a little bit more open about this stuff in future YouTube videos, because I am going to be covering Carson, and I did know Carson, so stay on the lookout for that. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm not too great. Today's probably one of the bad days, but I think it really helped with the tone of this video, I guess. I don't know. With that being said, guys, take care and be well. So yeah, thank you for listening for that. And if you did watch this video, I appreciate you watching the whole way through. Thank you so much. Alright guys, take care.